The following is a project of our nonprofit newsroom. Support Midcoast Morning and local community-centered journalism today by signing up to be a monthly sustaining donor at chly.ca/donate.
Hello and welcome to Midcoast Morning. I'm Joe Pugh. The Vancouver Island Symphony is bringing unfinished, unpublished, and underappreciated works to life this weekend. Concerts in Nanaimo and Courtenay will feature music from Beethoven, Mendelssohn, Charles Ives, and the late Vancouver composer Jocelyn Morlock. I spoke with the symphony's artistic director, Cosette Justo Valdez.
Hi, well, it's an honor for me to be here with you. My name is Cosette Justo Valdez, and I am, since the beginning of the past season, the artistic director of your Vancouver Island Symphony.
And coming up this weekend, a performance built around unfinished pieces. Can you tell me a little bit about that theme and why you chose it?
Yes, I found important artists very often, as well as audience and people in general, question themselves, their talents, their purpose, or their projects particularly. And it's, I think, a meaningful conversation in which we can share that those composers that many know and admire were not unbreakable, were people like us, and they had their struggles. And of course, life happens to them, did happen to them as well. Factually, they mostly were not rich or so very successful during their lives. They were struggling artists. And this is something that I always try to transmit, since I also come from a poor background, and I always try to communicate to our audience, existing audience and potential audience, that this music is universal. This music has nothing to do, although it can be used for it, and it has been, I don't deny that, but this music was not created for elitisms and this type of class, way to feel superior because you go to the symphony or because you listen to this music. Actually, I think is the most human, gentle. It touches all aspects of life, types of pain, joy, loss. This music is incredibly sensible. So why I chose these pieces was because I wanted to tell the story of composers that could not finish their pieces or weren't able to hear them be performed during their lifetime. For example, we start in the program with Beethoven's 10th Symphony. He said that he wanted to write after the 9th Symphony. He had offered to write one in 1827, but he couldn't finish it. And then in 1988, by Barry Cooper, an English musicologist and composer, he was able to put these sketches that gave him enough information, knowing him having studied, of course, Beethoven's language. And he was able to put together this sketch of this first movement of the symphony that gives us a great idea of how this symphony could have sounded, would have Beethoven been able to complete it. Then we have also Jocelyn Morlock's piece titled Interloper. We all know that Jocelyn Morlock is not with us anymore. She was an incredible, talented composer, kind, friend of everyone here in the area, the Vancouver area. She was beloved. And she expresses that this piece was written as a connection with Beethoven's 4th Symphony particularly. I just really wanted to perform Beethoven's 10th Symphony, but originally she wrote it for the Calgary Philharmonic, imagining having it performed together with the 4th Symphony. And this is a piece in which she says that she wrote it because she found that one point in common between her work and life with Beethoven was that sometimes she felt inadequate as Beethoven did at times too.
You talked a little bit earlier on that maybe sometimes the symphony can have these associations of class or like elitism, and you really want to move past that. If someone hasn't been to a symphony performance before, what kinds of things would you like to let them know about how to do that, maybe in terms of etiquette or even just shaking this image of it's very highfalutin?
Exactly. No, that's a great question. Look, I will just very, very briefly say about myself that I am Cuban. I was raised and born in Cuba. And in Cuba, we had a tradition that we have lost in a way, and I'm trying to help restore, of symphonic music. And Cubans are the most, how to say, informal people in a way, and yet they were elegant in terms of how people always have liked since centuries to present themselves. What I want to do with this, to say with this, is it doesn't matter in which class we are in society. For example, I feel that music, me as a Cuban, Cuban music is mostly known for its popular music, which is fantastic, Latin jazz, so many genres that were born in Cuba and so on. And yet I cannot live without classical music. Orchestral music of this ancient repertoire is so meaningful to me. It speaks to me. I need it in my life. If people would pigeonhole me into only Cuban music, popular music, I would die. I would die. So what I want to say with this is, as I said earlier, music is so, so universal. So I feel that people who have not been at the symphony enough or never should really come once, and come, first of all, dressed however they want. We are all dressing however we want. Even our musicians were like, if you want to dress cool, cool. And everybody wants to look good. So people will not always need to wear the strict type of tuxedo and things that people used to always wear for performing. We have now more freedoms to dress however we feel we are looking good. Also, as an audience, I love to go to concerts when I am visiting other cities without having to dress up, because I'm performing myself, and then I can go to listen to somebody else and I'm not performing. I love to not have to dress up. So I love that people come however they feel to come. I also always offer the audience the freedom to applaud whenever they want. The applause has had its own story on how much at the beginning was like being in a jazz concert where people would be applauding while the piece is still being performed between movements. Really, whenever the applause is a release of emotion. Babies applaud because we all feel this joy, and sometimes we need to release it. Sometimes it's also very cool to not release it until the very end. Then you have more to release, right? So I love to treat the applause as a human and unique individual experience, and the public is open and welcome to applaud whenever they want, as well as comments, like this sacred, like you're in a church silence. It's not necessarily always the best approach for certain types of music that we play in the orchestra. So yeah, my invitation to the audience is just come. You will love it, and you will, if you connect with the story we're telling, you will feel a lot of great things that will make you just want to come again. It's not about knowledge. The knowledge comes with the experience, but first is the experience.
So taking away that really your message is just show up. You don't get all in your head about what I need to wear, or I don't know enough about the music, or I don't know. Just show up and enjoy it, and kind of don't be afraid to express joy if you feel it.
Exactly. You live already in a fantastic island. You are so lucky as an audience. I mean, you have a great symphony that is playing here at the port for you, which is very, very accessible, this theater. It's a fantastic theater. If people don't know this orchestra, they should find out what they have here and how cool this music is and how cool the experience is. So yeah, just come.
Well, can you tell me a little bit more about it? So this is your second season with the Vancouver Island Symphony. You're also the resident conductor of the Edmonton Symphony Orchestra. You've got concerts coming up, I believe, with the Minnesota Orchestra, the Zagreb Philharmonic. You've guest conducted in Europe with the Stuttgart Philharmonic. You've been all around the world conducting. Can you tell me, with all of that in your back pocket, tell me a little bit about what stands out about the Vancouver Island Symphony? Where does it fit into the world?
Oh, well, thank you. That's a beautiful question. The Vancouver Island Symphony fills my heart every time I communicate with them, every time I meet with them, the musicians and our team, our staff, our volunteers are fantastic. Our volunteers are the best. Our patrons are so beautiful and generous. Every person that I meet here, every weekend I come, where I normally come for a long weekend, or sometimes I've been here for up to 2 weeks. I love it. I feel, of course, that this is my home now. This is my musical home. This is the orchestra where I have a voice. In other orchestras, I have been guest with lots to add into the programming of the concert I will do and so on. But here I get to program the whole season. I get to create a vision for our orchestra with our musicians, and we are discussing many different aspects of how to thrive even more, how to be the best we can. These musicians are incredibly well prepared, talented. They are so kind. They are generous in their efforts, in their time. They go beyond what they are asked for. So the joy that one feels when we reunite here, because many musicians come from the region in the area, and we all check in the hotel, and then it's like a festival orchestra, I call it, because we all meet and we have missed each other. We don't have the routine of rehearsing every week. So people definitely miss each other and are very happy to see each other again. So yeah, I tell you, the word to classify this orchestra is joy. Joy every time. It feels like it's an event every time. Every concert is incredible. And the energy has been unique. We have touched it every time we have been performing together. It's incredible.
Is there anything else you think it's important to let people know about this weekend's concert?
Well, I thank you, first of all, for having me here, for the interest in, talking about our performance this weekend. I want to tell our audience that I am honored to be part of this community now. Again, my name is Cosette Justo Valdez. I am in love with these people and this place. And if you haven't come to the symphony yet, come once. We have a lot that we are creating even for next season, including a Cuban festival, not only a concert as we have had, which has been a great hit. We are creating many things together in this organization, and we cannot wait to share it with you.
Well, Maestra Valdez, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you so much, Joe. It's my great honor to have been here.
Cosette Justo Valdez is Artistic Director of the Vancouver Island Symphony.
Midcoast Morning is made possible by the Community Radio Fund of Canada and generous listeners like you. Support and grow our nonprofit newsroom project today at chly.ca/donate with a monthly or one-time donation. With your support, we can expand Midcoast Morning from 2 to 3 original programs per week to cover local news, current affairs, and arts and culture.
We're talking about the Vancouver Island Symphony's upcoming performance on today's show. It's going to feature pieces by Beethoven, Mendelssohn, Charles Ives, and Jocelyn Morlock. The Juno Award-winning composer passed away in 2023 at age 53. The Juno Award-winning composer passed away in 2023 at age 53. Her piece Interloper is going to feature in the performance. I spoke with John Korsrud, himself a composer and partner of the late Jocelyn Morlock. How would you characterize Jocelyn's music? How would you describe it to people who've never heard it before?
Well, I can go all over the place. She's, her lots of humor. It's kind of quirky. It's very playful. She has her dark side, absolutely, but she really knows what she's doing. She's really a master at orchestration, like getting different colors out of the orchestra. And one of her favorite composers was Ravel. Ravel was Yeah, she was a fantastic what we call orchestrators, getting really great sounds out of combining different instruments together and different instruments in different ranges, like the top of the bassoon and the bottom of the bass clarinet and stuff or whatever. You just anything combining those sounds to get something kind of unique and very colorful. She loved nail polish. She loved knitting, and I asked her why she loved those two things. She said, "Oh, I love color." And I think when you listen to her music, you hear a lot of color.
How does color come out in music? I feel like so many things in music, we all have so many like emotional attachments to it, and maybe part of the magic is it's hard unless you're maybe a composer to relate exactly what in the music is making you feel that certain way. Like maybe that's what makes it special. But what do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question. So composers and producers, when we speaking of color, we speak the same way that your voice sounds different than my voice, right? You all have a different color to your voice. I have a different color to your voice. And a clarinet is going to sound different than a male voice, and a trombone is going to sound different from a clarinet, and a snare drum, rolled snare drum is going to sound different than that. And these are all just different colors, and it has to do with harmonic systems and things like that. But that's not important. So, and the same with producers. When you're doing a hip hop record or a rock record, you're combining different sounds. So you got the harmony and the melody part of it, which we're all familiar with. Like you listen to Bob Dylan or Joni Mitchell, we're all aware of like the harmony and the melody. But there's something that classical composers do with orchestras, where you're really playing with the color of the orchestra. And if you're a producer for a hip hop record, you would bring in different synthesizers and different colors and all that sort of stuff. And that's half the fun of composing as well. It's not just a melody and harmony, but what we call timbre or color.
Another part of this program is maybe the theme of composers who, when they were working, for example, Mendelssohn with this symphony, it was kind of like a perfectionist. He was always revising and revising and revising. How do you think that fits with Jocelyn's work and style?
Yeah, that's an excellent point, because one thing I do know about Jocelyn was how much of a perfectionist she was. She would never, ever let anything go out the door that she wasn't 100% proud of. And she really poured her heart and soul. And she was really quite tormented over every piece. Like, oh my God, it's so difficult. It's so difficult. And it was like that every piece. And, she really poured her heart and soul, and worked ridiculously hard on everything. And her standards were very high, and she was very tough on herself. And she would just could be 8 hours a day of composing for 2 or 3 months. So I wouldn't be surprised if she would have spent 6 hours a day on this piece for about 3 months, 2.5 months. That wouldn't surprise me.
I was reading through some old interviews, and I found a quote of hers that said, so much of what's on a classical music concert is kind of a museum piece, and they're part of a canon. And she said that she would love to see it keep growing and invite in other music that expresses other things and that reflects on our own times.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you could talk about that idea as someone who knew her, and given that we're talking about, a symphony performance happening this weekend.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because even as composers in general, we're always trying to find that interesting line between, and especially when you're doing orchestras, because orchestra work, you want to make the orchestra happy and you want to make the audience happy. And that was very important to Jocelyn too. She didn't want to write academic music. She never wrote based on systems and all that sort of stuff. It was only her emotional impact to it, and what she was hoping the emotional impact from the audience would be. So that was very important to her. But at the same time as what you're saying, is that they are trying to write something that's attached to a canon, as you said, like an old history and all that sort of stuff. At the same time, trying to find something that nobody else has said, trying to find something fresh and new in that idiom. And we're talking like an idiom that has been done tens and hundreds of thousands of times by great, great, great composers. I mean, you are in a way being compared to Mendelssohn and Bach and Ives and Beethoven and Ravel and all your favorite composers and all your colleagues, and we're all trying to find that particular voice. And that's tough to do. You want to make you want to do two things. You want to have music that's great, but you also want to have your own voice at the same time. I mean, you might have your own voice, but there's no point of having your own voice if it's not very good. And at the same time, you don't want your work to sound like Beethoven. You don't want it to sound like Mendelssohn. You want to find your own thing in there as well. So ideally, we're all trying to find that, and it's tough. It's a tough thing to try to get at sometimes, but that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, how do you approach that when people have been making music for hundreds and hundreds of years in this canon? You look at a piano, and there were only 12 different keys to play in. How do you approach saying something new, but still making something that people are going to recognize something in?
Yeah, that's the golden question. That's 100% the golden question, and we're all trying to bang our heads against the wall trying to find that, She did a lot of research, and I think we all do a lot of research. We listen to lots of other music. And so, like, if she had to do a cello concerto, she would listen to dozens of cello concertos, the old ones, the contemporary ones. And every once in a while, you're going to go, oh, that's a good idea. Oh, I like that idea. But maybe I'll do this or I'll do that. Or maybe I combine this, combine that. So it's usually like combining different things together. That's usually the best thing. But she was going through a period later where she was starting to get disillusioned with that whole kind of question. It's like us. Because it's when you go to university, when you go to school, we're always kind of taught Beethoven is great, Mozart is great, Bach is great. We should kind of kneel down and genuflect to these people, kind of stuff. And she was starting to think, well, that's the way we've been taught. And I think maybe it's time that we don't think that anymore. I think that's, I think it's kind of old paradigm in itself that we're taught, like, these are the masters and this is who we're supposed to respect. And I think there's a huge universe out there. And she loved gamelan music, for instance, which is Indonesian music, and she did that for a long, long time. And she loved lots of different kind of music. Yeah,
I'm interested in that idea of reevaluating things, maybe along the same line, but a different part of it. I was talking with the conductor of the symphony yesterday about the idea of symphony etiquette. And she was really sharing, we want people to just come, show up, enjoy it, have fun, to not worry about what they're supposed to wear, to not worry about, like, am I clapping at the wrong time? How do you think maybe the whole world of this continues to move forward and evolve and maybe move beyond some of those notions of, like, you have to wear your Sunday best and it's a real high class thing and Beethoven is great because everyone says he's great. How do you move past that and, like, bring something new to it?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Well, the funny thing is that, like, we hear so much classical music. Like, we all watch TV and film soccer. We all hear this, that we all hear contemporary music all the time. It's not that weird to us anymore, right? I mean, back in the 50s and 60s when the avant-garde was happening, people going, oh my God, what's this? But now you put on any television show and they got these great composers doing great things, and it's of a very kind of advanced style often, right? It's very, very nuanced and the level of composers out there is fantastic. But you're absolutely right. Is that, like, Bromwell Tovey, for 10 or 15 years, was the conductor of the Vancouver Symphony, and he was really good at stop making the whole orchestra experience a very pretentious thing. He kind of brought it down. He was funny. He would talk to the audience. He would tell jokes. It made people didn't feel like they were attending such an erudite kind of event kind of stuff, which is fun to do too. I mean, I like that. I like getting dressed up. I like going to the symphony. It's a thing, but it shouldn't be a thing where people feel intimidated by going, right? And it's like, you might like it, you might not like it, but at least you're trying stuff out, and you're never going to argue against Beethoven. You're never going to argue against Mendelssohn. These guys were brilliant, and Bach, of course. And even if you don't understand it, I think just because you're exposing it to it, you'll understand it a little bit more the next time, or have a little bit of an understanding. You'll have things you like and things that you don't like. But that's all part of the artistic experience. Is just kind of exposing yourself to new things.
So if someone goes to the symphony this weekend in Nanaimo or in Courtenay, maybe they've never been to this symphony before, and they're sitting there and the pieces are playing, Jocelyn's pieces playing, what would you say to them on how to get the most out of that experience?
Just be non-judgmental. Just sit there and just let it wash over you. I think that's the best thing. Just have a very open mind and just listen and take it all in. I know they got a great orchestra. You listen to great musicians. You listen to great music. The Ives will be more avant-garde, absolutely. You hadn't answered your question, but he likes to combine things you would never expect to be combined and do it at different tempos. So it's very quite surreal a lot of the times and very kind of dreamy. Morlock, her stuff is very playful. She'll be imitating Beethoven. That was what she was asked to do, but she'll add her own kind of playfulness and quirkiness to it, and lots of beautiful colors. And Mendelssohn is just a great romantic era composer. He loves to tell. Romantic composers know how to tell a story through melodies and sound and all that sort of stuff. So that's what he'll be good to do. So my thing is just be not judgmental, enjoy the experience, and take it all in.
Are there any other maybe memories of Jocelyn that you'd like to share with people as we get ready for this concert?
Well, just how seriously she loved composing, how seriously she took her work. She poured her life and soul into every piece, and she was really looked for some sort of emotional impact, whether it's playfulness or anything else, or sadness and all that sort of stuff. That's probably the memory I would like to leave with that.
Well, John, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
John Korsrud is a composer and partner of the late Jocelyn Morlock. Morlock's piece Interloper is set to be performed by the Vancouver Island Symphony this weekend at concerts in Nanaimo and Courtenay, part of their program Second Guest, Unpublished, Unfinished. That's our show for the day. Thank you for joining me. I'm Joe Pugh, host and producer of Midcoast Morning. Jesse Woodward is our executive producer, and RB Frew is our technical advisor. You can sign up for CHLY's newsletter at chly.ca/subscribe. Our theme song is First One by local Nanaimo band Waste Management. If you have a story you'd like us to cover, email us at news@chly.ca. That's all for now. I'll talk to you on another Midcoast Morning.
Midcoast Morning would not be possible without the funding of the Community Radio Fund of Canada's Radio Meters program and listeners like you. Midcoast Morning is a project of CHLY's nonprofit newsroom. Support nonprofit journalism in Nanaimo and on the Sailor's Sea today by becoming a monthly sustaining donor at $5 or more per month. Support the program at chly.ca/donate. Finally, this program acknowledges and gives thanks to the Nanaimo First Nation as we broadcast and podcast from their traditional territory. Thanks for listening.